Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire.
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
Your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
back on the broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and this episode is all about winter solstice magic, spells, and activities from Yule's past, present, and future.
And being the little Yule fairy, I'm Chelle. I am super excited. I love this time of year. I love talking about this time of year. I hate driving in this time of year, but there's nothing like the dark time, that reflection time, that going in mentally, physically, that coziness, that warmth. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for Yule.
And I love the lights of the season. I can't say that I really love the dark, to be honest. It gets dark way too soon. That whole part of this season is so noticeable. So I guess what makes me happy and what I really pay attention to this time of year is the lights. And our episode today, we're going to be talking about Yule crafts, spells, rituals, ideas, and we're going to kind of segment our episode into Yule activities past, Yule present, and Yule future.
One thing I love doing this time of year is driving to and fro over the river and through the woods and looking at people's outside lights that they put up for the holiday, for Christmas, for Yule, for Hanukkah, for whatever. And I'm always fascinated by them, like some little kid looking at them for the first time. And I've often wondered, what's with the lights? Why did we start putting lights out? I like to make things up in my head and create stories for things, factual or not. But in my head, it's almost like lighting the way through the darkness, whether it is red and green lights or rainbow colored lights, or you decorate your whole house in red lights, whatever. But it's almost this concept to me of keeping the light on through the darkness. And it's probably not people's intention, and I get that, but in my head, it's beautiful.
I think it is. I think that no matter what the celebration this time of year, it's all some sort of idea that the light is coming back, that the sun is coming back, that the warmth will come back, that we're not going to be stuck in this darkness forever. And so those little lights kind of all remind us, and like you said, shall lead us to that rising sun. And I think that's one of the reasons why the tradition of sun wait, that new Norse tradition of lighting a new candle every week on Thursday or Sunday, each week going forward towards the winter solstice to kind of represent the hope that that light will come back is very popular.
Well, I think that with this time of year and the days are obviously shorter, I mean, for fuck's sake, it's getting dark at like 4:30 right now.
Yeah.
Just that little hope of renewal in whatever the form is, whether that is candlelight or Christmas lights on a house driving down the street or the fire in the hearth, whatever the case may be. I think that just that little bit of hope is something we almost look forward to. You think of the dark time as kind of this, not sad per se, but kind of like this saddish kind of time, this inner kind of time of year, when really this time of year, I think, is when people grasp on to the hope of what's yet to be.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah. This is the time of year when people in the past were afraid. It was cold, it was dark, it was easy for people to get sick, for people to die, for people to not make it through the dark of the winter to spring.
Food was scarce, just little things. Milk from their cows was more scarce in the winter. Everything was just more barren.
And so, right around Yule, right around winter solstice, is when most people were really sick of the dark, just like we are today.
I'm feeling it.
We're feeling it. And the solstice is one of those moments that ancient people could mark. They did notice the longest night and the shortest day. And the winter solstice This year occurs on December 21st, and it always occurs right around the 19th to the 21st. What it is a celestial event. The northern hemisphere is tilted the furthest away from the sun. So, at the exact moment when the northern hemisphere is the most away from the sun, that is the moment of the solstice. And that's how we get that long, long, long night and very short day. And so, the shortest day will be December 21st this year, which is also Yule. So that's the solstice. That's when the winter solstice happened. And so people would mark that. They noticed that. The idea was maybe the sun's not going to come back. It's getting weaker and weaker. We need to make sure that the sun knows that it's wanted and welcome. And so we're going to do everything we can to honor the sun and the gods of the sun so that it for sure comes back. It doesn't forsake us. It doesn't leave us alone in the cold and the dark. So we're going to do everything we can to honor that.
I always found a challenge with this time of year in the fact that it is the longest night, but yet we haven't reached the coldest part of our year, of our
Right, not
season.
here in the, especially not here in the Northeast USA. That's true.
Right. And so you kind of almost associate that longest, darkest night with being the coldest, but yet it's not. And I've always had a hard time kind of reconciling that in my mind because as we kind of inch closer to Imbolc, we are getting lighter and brighter and colder.
Right.
At
Yeah.
least here, at least here. But even with that deepening cold, that light gives you a sense of, it's cold as shit right now, but I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so to say, with the actual temperature. You know that those things are brewing in the ground and that they will burst out full of life shortly. But it's that darkest night where you're kind of like, is it coming back? And like you said, back historically, hundreds and even thousands of years ago, they went through the seasons year after year. They knew that the sun was coming back, but in that moment, they were scared.
It's still theoretical, I guess, when it's super dark outside. You just kind of have to hope that the sun is going to come back. So we do things to remind us of the sun. We do things to symbolize that hope, that renewal, the idea that it's coming back, because we need to be reminded of it. We have seasonal affective disorder, right? We are literally sad. We don't like the cold. So we do things that are warming, that are fun. We like to cook more. Maybe not Chelle, but we like
No,
to bake things. Chelle likes to eat things this
I
time of
do.
year. We do things with friends and family with baking. We have the warm kitchen. We have the bright orange slices. Actually, speaking of baking, Chelle, I'm going to out you right now because right before we started recording, you giddily sent me some pictures of
I
a
did.
craft. And I guess it's technically not cooking, but it's sort of cooking. Tell the listeners what you're up to.
It does involve an oven, not gonna lie. So I have decided that this Yule, I am going to, and I have done this in the past, and it was really fun, and I haven't done it in a lot of years. And I decided that I was going to do the dried orange slices. So I have cut my oranges. I would love to say that they were a quarter to an eighth of an inch thick, but I was using like a meat cleaver and they were small oranges and I didn't want to bleed. So like we won't talk about thickness, but my oranges are currently in the oven right now drying.
It's not how thick they are that matters. It's how
Exactly.
orange they are. I'm not sure where I'm
Stop
going with
yourself.
that
Stop
metaphor.
yourself. So I currently, they've been in for about an hour and a half right now. I currently am drying my oranges. I am going to actually make ornaments out of them. I know traditionally people like to make a garland with them, but my end game here is I am going to make little ornaments out of them. I am going to string little twine, black twine that I have, and make little pentacles on top of the oranges and make them into little ornaments. So we will see. I will keep you updated on the status. As like I said, they're still in the oven right now. But yeah, I wouldn't call it cooking because I'm not going to ingest it, but it did involve an oven, yes.
I love that you're making dried orange slices because, as little representations of the sun, they look like the sun, they're grown in the sun. They can be used for so many things this time of year. So, we're going to start talking about our crafts of Yule past with the orange slices that Chelle is trying because orange slices are fabulous this time of year for a couple different reasons. The first and most obvious is that it represents the big, huge sun, that bright sunlight, that orange, that renewal, that gorgeousness of summertime and the sun.
It's a visual representation, literally.
And Chelle's using it to make ornaments, and she's using other representations of this time of year, cinnamon and anise to represent warmth and to bring that warmth into your house. The second thing that oranges are fabulous for this time of year, and if you've listened to some of our older Yule episodes, you'll probably know where I'm going with this. Oranges represent wealth because they look like gold nuggets that some people used to put in their stockings, Germanic people. And also, in the past, citrus fruits in the wintertime were for the wealthy. So if you got an orange in your stocking, not only was it healthy for you, but it was a sign that you had a little bit of wealth in your life.
Seriously, because when I was like 10 years old and my mom and my grandma, in retrospect, at the time I thought it was Santa, but when they would put oranges and nuts in my stocking, I would truly get pissed off. As a kid, I was pissed. As an adult, I get it. I understand. It's okay now. But as like a 10-year-old kid, nuts and oranges in my stocking, no bueno. Not at all. Not at all.
I also have some oranges, and I have kind of a funny story, Shell.
Uh-oh. What'd you do?
I know you are the simmer pot queen, and I too like a good simmer pot now and again. And the local community here that I'm part of, Crystal City Circle, we've had a couple different cool crafting events recently, one of which we made simmer pot bags. And everybody brought different ingredients so that we could have Yule simmer pot bags.
Oh, I love a good simmer pot.
Aren't they fantastic? Now, these were great. We had cinnamon sticks and anise, we had cloves and pine branches. Of course, there were orange slices and apple slices, cranberries, and there was a whole bunch of stuff, a bunch that I'm forgetting, I'm sure. And so we had a good time making these little bags, and I used mine for the first time the other day.
Was it fabulous?
I kind of made a dumb mistake.
Let me guess. You let it burn down. You didn't put more water in it.
Actually, that part I did not do badly. I dumped the whole bag in, and I had a little jar left that had some cloves in it and an extra stick or two of cinnamon. And I didn't realize how much clove was at the bottom of the jar. So
Oh,
I just
no.
figured I'll just dump this in too since it was left over from when we made these bags.
So you had a clove simmer pot.
Yeah, yeah, there was probably a good tablespoon or two of cloves in the bottom of that jar. I didn't realize it, and I dumped the whole thing in the simmer pot.
Good going. Good going.
I figured it'll be fine. It's fine. It'll be fine. So I let it simmer, and it did. It smelled great at first. And then I went in the other room and got busy, and I
Yeah.
started smelling cloves really strongly. Like really, really strongly. By the time I walked back into my kitchen, I think I needed a gas mask, Shell. I had to open windows and turn on a fan. I was going to hurt somebody. I felt so bad for my cats. I think I maced my kitchen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, word to the wise, if you can't see what's in the bottom of the jar and it might be
Don't dump it all
cloves,
in.
yeah, don't dump that in your simmer pot. I didn't want to start over. I figured, how bad could it be? Bad is the answer. It can be very bad.
Yeah, yeah. Like like if you would have done that with oranges, that would have been
Doing
fine.
fine.
But you picked the strongest ingredient. Like, come on.
Yeah. I saw the cinnamon sticks and I thought it'll be fine. And when I saw the cloves fall in after, I was like, oh no.
Not
Oh
fine.
no. Not fine. Not fine. Yeah, no. Lesson learned.
Nice.
Learn from my mistakes, people. Any other past Yule activities you'd like to mention?
Now, this is something I've always loved to do. And I actually, speaking of our groups, I had a lovely ritual yesterday with my coven here. And what I did, I went to Michael's and bought a large needle, like a sewing needle, but probably about 2, 3 inches long. And I got some black twine, the same twine that I'm using on the orange slices to make the little pentacles on. And I strung cranberries and made a cranberry garland for my coven Yule tree. So I made a cranberry garland for the Coven Yule tree. And what I did is, like, you know how you can get those bags at the grocery store of like the walnuts,
Hmm.
the fully encased walnuts, they're still in the shell. So I had gotten a bag of walnuts and I did like probably maybe like a half, like about a foot worth of cranberries on this garland. So I strung about a half a foot. And then I made this little knot thing, which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, and like knotted in a walnut into my garland. So it was
Ooh.
like about a foot of cranberry, and then I'd put a nut, and then I'd string like another foot of cranberry and put a nut. And we wrapped that around the Yule tree. Some of my nuts I had to re-knot into the string. But essentially, once I had all my nuts in place, it actually looked really cool. It's just a matter of being able to tie around the nuts to keep it to stay. But I worked it out. So yeah, my cranberry and nut garland, I thought it was fabulous. The coven loved it. It looks fabulous on our tree.
I want everyone to know I did not make one inappropriate joke or comment. Thank you. No, I bet it did look fantastic. Just the contrast of colors probably looked really, really good.
It did. But and I think that one thing, I'm big on Christmas decorations, I'm big on trees, I'm big on decorating trees. And what makes it a Yule tree for me is that natural element. The orange slice ornaments and my cranberry and nutball freaking garland. And you know that I have been famous for having anywhere up to 17 trees in my house.
Yes, including in the bathroom.
Included, hey, you don't judge me.
Oh, I don't. I cheer you on. The more the merrier. Ho, ho, ho.
But I always try to make one of them like a Yule tree and a natural tree.
One of the points of many pagans this time of year, particularly if you're celebrating Yule and the winter solstice, is we like to bring in natural elements. And that goes back to it's dark and cold as shit out there. And we don't like it that much. I mean, it's cool. We like to go in. It's kind of fun to go out under the stars. But when you go back into your house, you want it to be warm and well lit. You want it to have reminders of nature that life does go on. That's why we like the greenery. There's those Tannenbaum stories, right? The story of the greenery and the holly and the ivy that's outside that still shows signs of life, the red and the green, even in the cold and the dark. So bringing that stuff into your home reminds you that there is still life even in the middle of winter. So we do like to bring in as much as we can that reminds us of that.
And as much as I joke that, I have had up to 17 trees in my house, and that is a true statement. Not all of them are real, of course, but I've always been very conscious to always have one real tree because there is that sense of bringing it in. People always have the mistletoe thing. I've always gotten a real mistletoe, not a plastic mistletoe. That whole idea of bringing that in.
Going along with that, bringing in natural elements, which can be anything, walnuts. For some people, those are traditional Christmas. For others, they're not. But it's natural. It reminds you of the outdoors. And again, it's got that wealth aspect to it, bringing the nuts into the home.
It actually just reminds me of having them in my stocking as a kid, to be honest. It's nostalgic.
It's so nostalgic. And we talked about the stories behind that. And, you have some Dutch heritage, Pennsylvania Dutch heritage. And this tradition came from my mother's side of the family, and she said it meant health, wealth, and happiness. And there is some truth to that. And then the other side of past and nostalgia that we were just talking about is the candles. And my activities of Yule past is the candle ceremony that I like to do with my children. When my kids were very little, we did celebrate Christmas. We still kind of do. We celebrate a secular Christmas. It's part of our Yule season celebration, I guess. It means family, it means gift giving to us. But I wanted to have a ceremony that bridged the solstice to Christmas, that helped my children kind of see those two as connected. And what I came up with was a 4-night candle idea, which is very similar to like Kwanzaa and like
I
Hanukkah.
remember when you used to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right around the winter solstice, on the first day of Yule, the 21st, we light the first candle, and that represents the sun, the returning sun. And then the next night, we light the gold candle for the sun and a silver candle for the moon. And then the third night, we light the first two candles and we light a third candle for the god, a green candle usually. And then Christmas Eve, we light the fourth and final candle. So all of them will get lit. And then the fourth candle, which is a red candle for the goddess. And that's Christmas Eve. And that also represents the growing strength of the sun because the solstice, again, is the shortest day.
So, devil's advocate here, what do you do when the solstice is on the 19th?
It's Yule. The 21st is always Yule, so it doesn't
Okay.
matter which day. It's just representative of that to bridge the gap. And so it's still, the sun is still growing stronger those 4 days. So that's what we do. We start from Yule, the 21st, and we go to Christmas Eve for those 4 nights. And the lights represent the growing and strengthening sun. And so that was a way for my kids to bridge the gap. And even now that they're older, they still really love that tradition.
Now, as in line with the tales of Scrooge and A Christmas Carol, let's move on to Christmas present, Yule present. Let's talk about Yule in the present. One thing I am going to do in the next few days is going back. It's kind of an old tradition I'm bringing back, and this was an idea that you sparked in me with Crystal City Circle. Love you guys, miss you, Jelly. And that is the salt dough ornaments.
Real quick aside, Crystal City Circle has a workshopy type class every month. And just recently we did salt dough ornaments when we were talking about spell crafting. And so we made Yule ornaments and other things too that were actual spells. So salt dough ornaments are a lot of fun to make. And it's not just for kids, it can be for witches too, especially because you can incorporate herbs and oils and all sorts of spell components into the salt dough as you're making the ornament. And then, once it dries, you can decorate it with crystals, with natural elements, with spell components. You can put runes and sigils on it. So these could be decorative, but they can also be a spell in and of itself, either on your tree or on your altar or just hanging in your kitchen, and no one would know that that pretty decorative ornament is actually a spell in disguise. So that's what we did for our workshop for Crystal City Circle for December. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, so that is on my agenda. I am going to make little salt dough spell ornaments. And we've talked about this in previous Yule episodes. I have always been known to kind of been the gift maker.
Especially
Especially,
with those bath bombs and
yep,
personalized incenses.
yep.
You were the woman. Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. So, okay. So take those ideas of the things that I've done and translate that into these salt dough ornaments because I was thinking of because in the whole idea of they can be spell ornaments. So I have my Coven Yule coming up and we exchange gifts and I was going to create a little herbal concoction for each person in the coven, like I did back in the day with the incense and the bath bombs, kind of
Yeah.
make an individual one for each one and put those particular herbs in my salt dough because you're going to cook it at such a low temperature and do it slow and long that they won't burn. Almost having like an individual spell for each person that I'm going to give an ornament to.
Yep, that's what we did for the workshop with Crystal City Circle. We created the salt dough, which has already got a fabulous base to do spell work in. Because there's so much salt in that dough, it already starts out being grounded and protection and ready to go. You can make it into any shape you want. We took all of our spell components, incenses, oils, crystals, anything we wanted, and we put it in the dough. Either mixed it right in with the dough before we shaped it, or we pressed it in on top or glued it on top or secured it somehow on top of that spell. Then we carved in sigils, runes, spell words, keywords, designs, whatever we needed, and charged that ornament, charged that salt dough shape with the intent and energy of the spell.
And then, to get my cute little shapes, I'm just going to use Christmas cookie cutters. So I will form my dough with my salt and my flour and my water, roll it all out, put whatever it is I'm going to put in it, use cookie cutters to make it into cute Yule Christmassy shapes, and then probably add a few more things once they are cut out into their shapes. And then slow bake a couple hours at like 150, 200. And I may or may not, it depends. I may potentially paint them after they're dry as well.
You can Mod Podge them, you can paint them. And I also found that depending on how thick they are, you can air dry them as well. It just takes longer.
Yeah, yeah. I ain't got that kind of time, so I'm using the oven. I did kind of rob that idea from you, but I also recall doing that, like even as a child, like I remember doing that in elementary school. And then I'm like, man, we were doing witchcraft in elementary school.
Yeah. Salt dough is a really great way to make an ornament, not just for Yule, but you can make them as protection ornaments. You can make them for specific spells. Think about making a spell jar, which, I'm not a huge fan of. But if you're going to make a spell that needs to be looked at to help activate it, a salt dough ornament is a really great way to have a spell that's decorative and is still being charged and sending out its energy each time someone looks at it.
So what is your Yule present thing?
Okay, well, funnily enough, you actually gave me this idea.
Wow.
We were talking the other day about different things that we could do, and you mentioned a Yule log. And I've made Yule logs in the past, and I just haven't in a while. This year in particular, it'll be really great because I used to like to make Yule logs out of an old Christmas tree. If I was able to, we would leave the Christmas tree outside. Sometimes we would even tie natural, like seed ornaments on it for the birds to eat, kind of thing, while it was sitting
I
outside.
love that. Yeah.
And then once the next Yule rolled around, we could take off all the old branches pretty easily, cut off a small chunk of it, and now you've got the basis of your Yule log. Well, I didn't intend to do that last year. I took our old tree and I dumped it on our burn pile,
So you weren't thinking ahead, is what you're saying.
and it just kind of sat there and I never did anything with it. So when you mentioned doing a Yule log this year, I was like, I actually have my Yule tree from last year
Nice.
sitting available. So I've just started taking the branches off of it and I'm going to decorate it all pretty with some pine and with some cranberries, with some dried oranges that I think I'm going to copy from you and make again this year, and put some candles on there. And Yule logs are traditional. They're a very old idea, a very old tradition, and they go back to when people would take a Yule tree and they'd put it in the fire end first, like a big, huge, giant tree, and they would burn the whole thing for the entirety of their Yule celebration, all 12 days of Yule.
You can kind of use it if you have the ability, get your Yule log, you decorate it, you do the burning thing as ancient tradition. But what my coven did last year that I thought was spectacular is we made a Yule log and we decorated it. We had three birch chunks. We affixed them together, decorated them, candles on top, but we didn't burn it. We burned the candles on it, but we saved it. And then this year we used that same Yule log during ritual, obviously replacing the candles. So, you don't necessarily have to burn the Yule log. You can decorate it and use it as an altar piece year after year that you can add to, or, decorate it once and have that be the way it is. So that is something that my tradition does. We actually created the Yule log as a coven and now use that in our altar space each Yule.
I like that a lot. There is a tradition where you can keep slips of paper near your Yule log so that you can write wishes or hopes for the next year and then put it in the Yule log that traditionally would then get burned at the end of the 12 days of Yule or right on Yule whenever you decide to do it for that luck. But if you want to keep that Yule log to be a decorative piece, one thing you could do to keep the burning wishes tradition alive is to decorate the log with a couple pine cones every year and take your slips of paper and roll them up and then stick them inside the little leaves, the little openings of the pine cones.
Yep.
So just stick them inside that pine cone and then take those pine cones and burn them. And you can either just tuck the papers in there or you can affix them with a little bit of wax from the candles that are on the Yule log, or you can pour a little wax over it ritually if you want to. And then take the pine cones from the Yule log that have everybody's hopes and wishes all
And
written
you can
into
burn
it.
that in your cauldron or in your outside fire or fireplace or whatever. And actually, if you use wax strippings to affix your wish papers to. It'll help the pine cones kind of burn better and catch better.
That way you can keep that Yule log over and over again if you decide not to burn the whole thing. And just decorating that Yule log and having that in your home, any of these types of decorations goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the bringing in natural elements. Any holiday is a fabulous time to clean physically
Well, yeah.
because that magically represents getting rid of that stagnant energy, stirring up everything in your home and cleaning out anything that's negative, anything that's bad. And then if you follow that up in Yule with bringing in natural elements that smell good, that remind you of nature and growth and life, now you are filling that void you just created with positivity, with light, with whatever energies you are calling in by bringing in these natural elements. Or family elements. Didn't you say in the past, Shell, didn't your mom have like a plastic Yule log that she used?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's all about representation, man.
Exactly. And sometimes it's about that nostalgia, whatever gives you that little hit of nostalgia. Now, let's head into the crafts of Yule future. What is something that you have never done before, Shell, that you would like to maybe do this Yule?
I feel like sometimes I need to get more into that. I don't want to say prepping because I know that doesn't come across as like ritualistic, but kind of prepping. I want to do canning, doing that like that hunker down for winter. And like I said, I know you don't really count that necessarily as a ritual or spell work, but
I
you
do.
know, everything can be. But kind of that, I almost feel like our ancestors kind of prepared for this time of year, and our society has gotten that preparedness out of us. And I want to kind of circle back to that preparedness time of year.
Well, I have a recommendation for you, Shell.
What?
Since you're talking about doing a little bit of kitchen witchery.
Why are you using scary words?
Well, you're the one that said you were going to try to do some canning. I think you're ready. I think you're
I
ready
didn't
for some
say I
scary
didn't
stuff.
say the K word though.
But this one's not too hard, I promise. And it kind of goes along. It's sort of kind of like tea, kind of,
Okay, I follow
sort
you
of.
now. I'm listening. I'm listening.
My suggestion for you, Shell, is fire cider.
Keep seeing that online, and I'm like, with how sick I seem to be all the time, I need to learn how to make this shit.
Now, technically, you usually make this, in the fall so that it's ready for this time of year. But due to the magic of a global economy and modern grocery stores, you're able to get all the ingredients so that you can make some fire cider right now. And it doesn't take too long and then it'll be ready for you to take. So maybe that's what you could do for your first toe dipping into canning or getting ready for the winter is try to make some fire cider.
All right, you better post a recipe with this episode because I need to know how to do this.
Sweet. All right, I've got one. So, listeners, you've heard it. If you want Shell to try your fire cider recipe as one of her very first kitchen witch magic recipes,
Shush yourself.
send it to us either DM on Instagram or email backonthebroomstick@gmail.com.
I'll give it a go. I mean, how bad can it be, right?
I think it'll be pretty great. And like you said, you're not feeling so great in the wintertime. This fire cider is good to have. All right. So we're so alike, Shell. It's no wonder we're besties. It's going to sound like I'm copying you, and I'm not, I swear. But my craft for Yule Future, something that I think I've done this maybe once. It's making ornaments. They're not salt dough ornaments, but this time of year, it's really easy to go out and find clear, either glass or plastic, those ball ornaments that you can get for the tree.
My evil plan is working. I'm getting everybody into ornaments. I love it. Witch balls.
Witch balls, exactly. This is the great time of year to stock up on clear ornaments to make witch balls with. You can get them and you can turn them into Yule ornaments if you want to. Put in pictures of your family or pictures you've cut out of magazines or printed out or whatever you want to do. You can put in crystals and tinsel, whatever you'd like. Or you can make them witch balls and make them super awesome, amazing spells for anything that you need. So I have 3 easy peasy spells.
Okay, lay them on me.
The first one is an easy one. It's Yule. You can even stick in some of those little tiny like lights. You can get those little string lights that you can stuff in there so it'll light up when it gets dark. Fill it with cloves, everything that Shell was talking about with the simmer pots. little teeny tiny slices of orange, maybe small representations of the sun, little charms and crystals that remind you of the sun.
And what I'm going to be using in the salt dough ornaments as well is going to be pieces of, I don't want to call them leaves because I know it's not leaves, but the needle things that grow on pine trees, the pine needles, is that
Oh
what
yeah,
they're
pine
called?
needles. Yep.
The things that make you think of outdoors and, things that are still green and vibrant even through the harsh of the winter.
You could put in gold or silver glitter or red and green glitter, whatever reminds you of the sun and outdoors and Yule. You could write people's names all fancy on like a little scroll and put it in there so that you could make individualized Yule balls for people. You could make it decorative or you could make it a spell and you could give that as a gift to the person. Chelle has a family tradition of giving an ornament to each person in her family every year. So she could make a personalized one for each person.
I've actually done that. I've made personalized ones, but I have to stop and take pause for a moment that so far we've covered nuts and we've covered berries and we've covered balls. So, okay, continue on.
Who's the bad one this episode? All right. So the second one is an Hearth and Home Ancestors spell ball, which could also be for Yule. This one starts out with a name of your ancestor, maybe a picture or a small item or trinket of theirs. Then you're going to add your other spell components, and in particular, a lot of rosemary. Put some dried rosemary in it, dried mugwort, maybe a little bit of oak, maybe an acorn, something like clear quartz or smoky quartz to help anchor spirits, to help call to your ancestors.
Or if you have something in particular that reminds you of that ancestor, or, maybe they had a favorite scent or a favorite flower or
Right.
whatever, a favorite or whatever.
A picture of them, an item that reminds you of them or that belonged to them. You can showcase it in that ball. But that spell ball can remind you of them. And every time you see that, it brings that ancestor to your memory. It recalls them and it gives energy to their spirit. You could put that on your ancestor altar, or you could make several of them and hang them up. All right, sidetrack very quickly. I was just recently at a D&D campaign. Yes, I'm a
Of
nerd.
course you were.
With some members of Crystal City Circle,
Nerds.
total nerds. And at the home where we got together to play, they had a prominently displayed ancestor altar. They had a curtain, and on that curtain were pinned pictures and mementos, and it was their kind of like ancestor wall.
Oh my God, I love that.
It was beautiful. I didn't really realize what it was at first, but then after it was kind of pointed out, the naughty grandfather kept grabbing someone's hair, and apparently he was kind of like that in life, and you just kind of had to be like, "All right, grandpa." He did get yelled at during the night, but it was a curtain, and it was just big safety pins, and pinned to each thing was an item and a picture, usually maybe a small written card. But I thought that was such a beautiful idea. And you could do that with these witch balls, as you can put each thing in a little glass ball of its own with items that remind you of that person, and then hang that up in a place, maybe on a tree or a plant, or, maybe you have a special rope or a place in your office or somewhere in your home that's your ancestor altar. You could put them there.
I have to say this, you said that there was a spirit that was tugging on the hair there. All I kept thinking is I would totally not make a witch ball to take to your father's old house with that crazed freaking ghost in there. I
Mm-mm.
just had this vision of more than pulling hair. I had
Yeah.
to tell you that. I had to tell you that.
Thankfully, that one was just a naughty grandpa. At my house, that old haunted house, there was some angry people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, we won't bring rich balls there. No, not at all. And the last one is one for peace and tranquility. If you need a little bit of that after the craziness of the holiday season, you can fill it with dried chamomile, dried lavender, maybe some pine needles from your tree. Add an amethyst or moonstone, something pretty that you like. Print out a picture of a place that you absolutely love and put those in there. Just a few things that say to you joy and happiness. Take a little bit of thin birch bark and on it write a short phrase to yourself about happiness and abundance and peace and tranquility, and roll that up and put that in it. And then just keep it next to your favorite chair or next to your bed or wherever you go to exhale for a moment and have a moment of peace. Put that witch ball there to help give you just that little extra boost of tranquility when you need it. So that's my future idea.
I would be remiss if I did not also say, speaking of future,
Oh, what you got?
it all goes back to tarot. Let's be honest here.
Love me some tarot. Yes. All right, good. So let's get into divination because divination this time of year is fabulous. It's dark, it's cold. I want you to whip out your journal and do some tarot divination because what better time than now? You can't go out to the beach. It's hard to go hiking. I mean, you could, but it's cold and nobody wants cold toes in hiking. So stay in, be warm, pull cards.
Yeah, you're stuck in the house anyway. You might as well talk to dead people. Who else you talking to? Right?
That's so true. So, all right, cool. I have a 12 days of Yule idea that involves some tarot cards.
Why do you steal my ideas? Why you always steal my? That's why I always want to talk first because I have the idea and then you somehow steal it.
You have a tarot spread.
I
Mine is like
do.
a 12-day thing, and yours is a tarot spread.
But mine's a 12 card spread.
So weird. We both came up with the number 12 at the end of the year, the 12th month, looking forward to another year of 12 months. That's just odd. Strange coincidence. Or yes, I stole it from you.
You stole my 12. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. And you stole my 12. So somehow we evened it out.
And this particular spread does not involve nuts
Or balls or berries.
or balls or
No
berries.
twigs.
Nah, no twigs and berries right now. So it's funny. As humans, as witches, as people in the greater world, we have a lot of milestones that we call the new year around this time of
It's
year.
true. Yeah. The Celtic New Year, the Witches' New Year, the calendar
Societal
New
New
Year.
Year.
Yeah.
You know, when you're living in this modern pagan world, the new year is anywhere from frickin' October to January, okay?
True.
So it is kind of a time, you're doing that inward thing, it's dark out, you're all inward and being reflective. So you also want to look ahead. And I hate resolutions. Who the heck keeps the New Year's resolution? Because I surely do not. But I always like to kind of get an idea of what's in store, kind of make a plan, a game plan. And at first, I was thinking the 12 days of Christmas. What could I do for the 12 days of Christmas? But somehow that turned into a different 12. And I've come up with a spread for the 8 Sabbats and the 4 seasons. And
Ooh.
it is a glimpse ahead. And with this particular spread, I will be using the Yule Tarot. We've talked about the Seasons of the Witch oracles. As you know, they have started a tarot series and started with the Yule Tarot. So in my spread, I have, like I said, 12 cards, and I kind of have them placed as a card above, 2 cards below, a card above, 2 cards below. And how that lays out, which will show pictures, is the first card above is winter. What is the winter bringing? And then the 2 cards below, Yule, and then Imbolc. The next card above, we've got spring. The 2 cards below, Ostara and Beltane. The next card above, we've got summer. The 2 cards below, Lithalamus. The final card above is autumn, and the 2 cards below are Mabon and Samhain. So it's kind of like a glimpse into not necessarily what's going to happen, but more is, like I said, with the whole canning idea, getting into that preparedness mind, planning, preparing, organizing for what's to come. And that is kind of the thought process behind this spread. So you're kind of looking at the year ahead by season as well as tick in the wheel, but not to change it, to alter it, to mull over it, to whatever, but to plan, to be prepared. Like I said, I just feel that deep sense of preparedness this time of year. And so my spread is all about preparedness.
I absolutely love that spread, especially because doing it now in December, before the calendar new year, gives you a different perspective from behind the starting line, I guess. It gives you a moment to reflect before everything begins again.
Right.
We're in the thick of the dark right now. If you do that right before or right around the solstice, that really gives you an idea from the deep, right? From the deep part of the dark, looking out
Right.
of the dark into the new year. So I kind of like that. It gives you that first idea of what this next year is going to look like. I love that.
It's when the roots are being planted, I feel
Yeah.
like, because now and in bulk is when those roots are kind of being planted, because when things start bursting out in the spring, they're already bursting out with life. You're too late to build your root system at that point.
Doing a New Year's spread, a New Year's year-long spread is great because the calendar New Year is a liminal space. It definitely is. It marks a moment in time that's important and special and that a lot of people notice. But it's between holidays, right? It's between Wheel of the Year celestial events, I
Right.
guess.
It's almost like a Wheel of the Year spread enhanced. It's my twist on the Wheel of the Year spread.
So your Wheel of the Year starts and is set in motion at the holiday, at the solstice, rather than in that in between time. So I really like
Right.
it for that. I like it for starting at that moment of power rather than in the in between time.
Well, that goes again along with that idea of preparedness. You want to go in to these next ticks eyes wide open. It's more about setting expectations and kind of setting the bar, really. What am I planning for? What is going to be shifting? What's going to be on my plate? What do I have to get in line for? And you want to start at that point of power and that birth of the sun and that light starting to take over is a good point for that.
If you look at it like it's the seed that we've planted since Samhain, we've been talking about going down, going within, planting that seed, putting it in the dark.
Building those roots.
Yeah, having it wait to be ready to grow. And so by doing this 12 card spread at that moment, that darkest moment, you are that seed. You're at that moment of waiting, that moment of potential. I like that. It's the peak moment of potential. I think it's perfect and it fits perfectly with my 12 days of Yule daily tarot poll idea.
What idea did you steal? What did you steal from me?
Sort of similar, but not at all. I think the only thing we have in common is that there's 12 tarot
12?
cards. And gee, I wonder why when
I
we're
came up with
talking
12
about
first.
12 and the whole year, we're talking about the upcoming year. I don't know why we both came up with the number 12, and it's so strange. One of the things I really like is the tradition of the 12 nights of Yule. And you're going to see a million and one different versions of the 12 nights of Yule. When it starts, when it ends, what you do on each night, what each night is called. So that says you're allowed to make up whatever you want. So I did.
Love it. My favorite.
I made up a Back on the Broomstick 12 Nights of Yule. And I will put up all of this in detail, including Chelle's tarot spread, on our website. And we're going to have social media posts too, so you'll see all of this. But what the 12 Nights of Yule is it starts on December 20th, the night of December 20th. And that is the vigil of the long night. Because that's when the
Dun, dun,
long night
dun.
actually starts. Yeah. So that is your preparation time. That's when you prepare to go in the dark. That'd be a great time to do Chelle's tarot spread. You want to have your journal, your tarot deck prepared. You want to have your house clean. This is when you want to get ready. This is when you're going within. Then day one is December 21st, the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice, Yule.
You're making this sound like a freaking murder mystery, man.
So that first night is when you start the 4 candles that go from Yule to Christmas Eve. But it's also the solstice. That's when you pull your first card. So each night of these 12 nights of Yule, you're going to pull a card and journal about it. And each of these cards represents a month coming up in the next year. So December 21st, again, is the first day of the 12 nights, and that's the solstice. So you'll pull your card, and that card represents January. December 22nd is the growing light, and you'll pull another card. That card represents February. So each day has something associated with it. The growing light, the 22nd, that's about warmth and pleasure, family, warm drinks, good food, that kind of thing. Day 3, December 23rd, that's the day of memories. You'll pull another tarot card, and that will be for March. See a pattern?
I do.
All
I
right.
do.
You can either pull one card and then leave that out, so you'll get different cards for each of these days, or you can shuffle them back in. There is a potential you'll get the same card for a different month of the upcoming year. So for each day of the 12 nights, you go all the way up to January 1st is the very last day. And that's when you will pick the 12th card, which would be December of the next year. So again, I'll put up the activities and the ideas behind each day of the 12 days of Yule. Just a little witchy something to do each day, just an idea to keep in your mind so that you can have just a little witchy guideline, I guess, to go from December 21st to the new year. And for each day, you'll pull a card that'll give you an idea of what that month of 2026 will be like.
Hey, people should be pulling cards all day, every day, man.
That's what I'm
Long
saying.
live tarot.
Exactly. See? We totally agree. Do Chelle's tarot spread on the solstice, and then every night after that, going through to January 1st, you're going to
Do
pull another
Layla's 12
card.
day spread.
That's
Woo!
right. Tarot every day.
You're never going to hear this ever again, but I will admit it's worth journaling. There, I said it.
Totally
Do
worth
not ever
journaling.
tell anybody I said that,
I
okay?
will not tell a soul. I'm not telling anybody. And I don't think all the people listening, they're not going to tell anyone either, Chelle.
All right, Layla, we've talked about past crafts, present crafts, future crafts, tarot spreads. I've got oranges to get out of the oven.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've got a couple handmade gifts I'm a little behind on, and maybe a spell ornament or two that I'd like to do for the season. And there's always tarot cards to pull.
Seriously, I got to pick a deck. Oh my God, I don't even, maybe I could use a different deck every day.
I'm just happy that there's more than one Yule deck out there. Before, all we had was Christopher Hughes's deck, which,
Do we need anything else?
we probably really didn't. But it's kind of
Exactly.
fun to have more. It is fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us while we talked about past, present, and future Yule crafts. We are still doing our Yule card exchange. You've got a couple more days to get them in. If you get a winter solstice Yule card postmarked to us by the 21st, we will send you one back. And our people should have gotten some cards with tarot cards in them.
Let us know what you think. And you know what? I just pulled cards random. I'm not responsible for the cards you got. There's my PSA. Happy Yule.
You can also check out our Etsy shop back on the broomstick if you want to get yourself a Yule decoration or some merch.
And as a reminder, for the Yule card exchange, you are going to want to send those to Back on the Broomstick, P.O. Box 106, Salem, Mass. 01970.
And we'll have all this information for you in the show description. And again, we'll put Chelle's tarot spread and the 12 days of Yule information on our website. So, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Back on the Broomstick. We hope you're having a wonderful winter solstice season and that you're finding a lot of wisdom, growth, and solace in the dark. And until next time, keep it witchy.